Smiles at the top. Welcome to the Get Offset podcast. My name is Emily.
I'm Joan of Heart.
And it's been a couple of weeks. No, it's only been 1 week because I
It
recorded with Salvage.
time, since 2020, time is an experience. Like everything's a blur now.
Doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. We've been saying that for years. But
Yes.
yeah, it's been a lot of guests, which has been really fun. But
Yeah.
coordinating people's an adventure,
Schedules.
and
Yes.
especially recording like remotely, quite an adventure. So I recorded Steve's podcast on just iPhones, 2 iPhones, and the Shure MV88 Plus or something like that. It's their little smartphone microphone,
Nice.
and the audio sounded great. The app I was recording it in, I don't know if I did something wrong, but it didn't record the rest of the video in 4K. So like Rick's
Uh,
awkward angle camera is all in 4K and mine's just like normal. I'm like, whatever.
You're like, this is fine. This is
It's
like you're in the
fine.
room, like the dog in the room with everything afire. This is fine.
Steve was like, he wanted to record his hotel room because he was meeting someone right afterwards there.
Mhm.
I was like, we could have taken you to our Airbnb, which is a lot more scenic than the
Yeah.
Comfort Inn in Eagle Rock, Los Angeles. But he had AC and I didn't, so he won.
Well, yeah. That would be the deciding factor that I would lean towards too.
Yeah, it really would, especially when it's a plus 100 degrees or so. It wasn't really like that bad. Like being out in it wasn't like I felt like I was dying, but it made me not. I would just be sweating a lot. I was sweating a lot. Not
You're
used to
like,
it.
so sorry. I am a waterfall. If you don't mind, I am glad.
Dude, for me, it's like I thought Los Angeles was supposed to be a desert and it was so muggy.
Really?
It was really muggy because there was a storm, a hurricane up down in Mexico that was it sent a big rainstorm up to Los Angeles. So like we got to see LA when it rained. Like, oh, this
Wow.
feels really like special and rare.
Yeah, you're like, I just entered in some kind of equinox. What is this?
Yeah. So what have you been up to?
As far as what I've been up to, it's a lot. I guess I'll try to make it short because it's also very long. I am kind of preparing. I have a lot of construction going on. It's been a phase that they've been redoing our roofs here, and it's
Oh,
finally going into effects. We'd never had insulation, so they redesigned our roofs to not only add insulation, but also with the raising of the parapets and roof, new windows have to come in. So I've kind of been in a situation where we have like a hurricane on our coast and they're like, "Oh, we'll take out the windows this week." And I'm like, "No, no, no. No, please don't." So,
that's
uh
that
yeah,
was sounds
that
like a very bad idea.
yeah, no, it is. We've already kind of had a neighbor that has had, water come in their house, and those are the first two houses that they removed windows on. So I was like, before you open the rest of us up, how about no? How about you wait a little bit and finish those ones?
Doing
uh
doing roof work in Florida during
Very
hurricane
bad
season.
idea. Yes.
Yeah, I would think that would be a very bad
It
idea.
is, it is.
Yeah.
So it was supposed to be in December, but they kind of moved things up, so this obviously kind of is impacting my ability to record because of the noise, which obviously puts me a few hours at night because they've been leaving close to, like, 8 o'clock at night. Get most of
Yeah.
the weekend, I've been kinda pushing through on it. I guess on the good news, I learned some new stuff recently as far as reamping and routing things that I've recorded dry in Logic through my pedal board. So then I learned how to do some parallel mixing. So I've been enjoying that and the experience of that. And I'm thinking of in the Albi demo using that as a way to record something in dry, do the live loop, which that's the other thing I learned this weekend, to basically do it separately and then have the track recording. So as I am recording with the camera overhead, I'm turning the knob in real time with the loop in Logic
Yeah.
set to a drum track which is what I wanted to do, I never could do that with my boomerang because it would always, depending on how I close the loop, because I'm not always the greatest, it would always go out of sync at some point. So this is a good way that I'm going to be able to lock in that kind of
Mhm.
with a drum beat and make it kind of sound interesting during those points. So you're not just hearing, the same loop over and over, which is important because you want to hear the difference on the LB because there's like 8 presets. And then, of
Yeah.
course,
Oh, 8 presets and then the super settings.
exactly. So I'm
Super
still gonna
Neil.
kept yeah, and the Super Neil, just so people can compare the two modes, of the regular and of course the ultra. I'm still gonna keep the loop the same. So obviously you can hop back and forth and see the difference between the two. Normally I'd do a second different thing, but I think it's important you kind of hear with the same loop how
Yeah.
dramatically different ultra is.
That's generally my, approach to demos, and I'm
Hmm.
sure people get tired of hearing the same
Oh
fucking
no,
riff
I
during the
that's
whole
what I was
thing,
thinking. Yeah.
but at the same time, we
Yeah,
as players, I think, often naturally adjust our playing to, like, the effects we're using, the guitar we're playing, the amp we're playing, and it doesn't really showcase the differences, especially in
exactly.
modulation settings as well. Like, I'll bust out like, "Oh, this sounds like this song," and then I'll, like, play a riff from, like, a Chrissie Hynde song or something. But, for the most part, I try to keep it consistent so that people can,
Yeah.
really, really hear the differences.
That's also, what I've been wrestling with. 'Cause I was like, "Oh, I don't wanna have people get bored," but also it's really important that they hear the consistency between the 2 modes and how different they are.
Yeah.
The other thing in that one, for the house band segment, I've been recording one of the first songs I ever wrote, and this was on acoustic guitar, acoustic, instrument, and I'm converting it for this demo into, obviously electric and through effects. So it's nice to kind of revisit one of the first songs I ever wrote and trying to
Yeah.
write it for obviously what I know now. So quite a few kind of exciting things aside from the traumatic, dance that I'm doing on
Yeah.
the, house and hurricane front. There's some good breakthroughs and some good things that are actually through this demo. I'm learning things. And if I'm learning things at the same time where I'm kind of having fun and exploring things, it's a good balance, I guess. I'll try to keep my stress low.
Yeah. Yeah, and, trying new things in demos is
Of
often a
course.
little bit stressful for me,
Mhm.
but it's something that it becomes pretty essential, I think, personally,
Yeah.
to, like, because sometimes you just really completely need to change your, workflow to do certain types of demos. Like, I have, the Apogee Boom. So I
Hmm.
will have released this demo by the time this episode's out, but it's their newest audio interface,
Oh, nice.
and it has as you can see there aren't. I know that you can't see right now, but
Well, I
there
I
is
can kinda see. It looks kind of well, the
there's
way
yeah.
yeah,
There's
I
only
can
one
see.
big knob on it, and you click that knob to get between the inputs and the outputs to adjust the gain or the output volume, but it also has some built-in effects. It has a built-in
Oh,
EQ
nice.
and compressor that is accessible via, the Apogee Control app, the Apogee 2 Control app, and that's really cool, I think, for, like, podcasters, probably streamers who
Wonderful.
wanna be able to, like, adjust and fine tune their sound of their voice or an instrument and compression. But you can't really do that in like Streamlabs. You can't really do that in like Zencaster or Zoom.
No, we've
So if
been
you're
through all of
recording,
them.
yeah. So if you're recording something kind of simply like that and you don't want to have to like reroute stuff, like make it so that my microphone is actually my
Yep.
output from studio. That's nobody wants to do that. It's pretty
No.
neat. It's pretty convenient for that. It reminds me a little bit of the PreSonus streaming interface I demoed as well, but that had more that had like different settings and uh it had like the funny voices. But this is just
I
really
remember that.
simple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember when you were toying with that and you had sometimes the delay and stuff on your voice when you were even like, I think
Mhm.
one of the podcasts that you were recording, you were using
Yeah.
that. And I thought that was pretty interesting. I was like, oh, you have an
Yeah.
easier way of doing it than I do.
Yeah, so this is still more geared toward, I think, musicians
Yeah.
versus the streaming one, which is clearly more geared toward, streamers. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting little, like, comparing the two. Like
Yeah, it
this,
kinda seems
they're
like it's
different.
a direct plug and play kind of thing, and also it's funny looking at the design from, like, what I can see, when you were showing it. It kinda reminds me of the way they designed it. If anybody remembers, the old movie, like, Johnny Five, like, the hit
Oh,
yeah, it looks like
Johnny
the
Five's
front where the
alive.
knobs are. Yeah, exactly, the front where the
Yeah.
knobs are, it looks like what his eyes would be, and I was
Oh
like, "Yeah, it kinda
gosh.
reminds me of that robot." It takes it far
Johnny
back, I know.
Five. Short Circuit. Short
Yeah,
Circuit
Short
from
Circuit, there we
1986.
go.
Yeah.
That's
That's
what
one
it
of my
looks
husband's
like.
favorite movies.
I love that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So, my advice to people who are interested in streaming or podcasting or even like it worked really well with the iPad, which was super cool.
Oh, that's
Um,
convenient, yeah.
yeah, check out the Apogee Boom. It might suit your needs pretty well. But that's I hope that's good advice. There's a lot of bad advice out there though. And
Oh,
this week
yes.
on Instagram and TikTok, I asked musicians and guitarists, what is some bad advice you've gotten? Bonus points if you hear it a lot. And I'd like to start with the bad advice that I've heard a lot and implore people to stop giving.
Please.
Have you heard of the poor man's copyright, is what they call it?
I haven't heard that.
So, when you write something, you are automatically granted a copyright as the creator of that thing. And but that doesn't mean it's going to be easy to prove that you created and are the sole copyright owner of that work. So some people used to suggest, and I apparently do still suggest, to take a copy of your written work, recorded work, piece of art, put it in an envelope and mail it to yourself. So it'll have the send date on the postal date on the stamp. And if you don't ever open it, if something ever happens, you need to prove the copyright. You can say, "Hey, I have this proof." Take it to a judge or whatever. Um,
Is
there are
is that is
problems with
that when
this.
they open it? Like, when the judge has
Yeah,
it? Like, what's the point of not
I
opening
guess
it?
the well, because if you open it, then you could put something in there.
Ah, okay, okay,
And
okay.
so the idea is it's sealed. There are a few problems with this. Is one, unsealed envelopes make it through the postal service every day.
Yes.
So that's one problem, is that there is some plausible deniability there,
Mhm.
that you could have like fudged it. But the biggest problem is there are people don't just register their copyrights to prove that they were the first person to create that. They register their copyrights for specific protections. So if you actually register your copyright with the government, then you are entitled to like damages if somebody violates your copyright. If you don't register, like, yeah, that like you have some protections, but you don't have the full scope of protections. Like
Mm.
you can't sue for damages. I believe you could probably get like the money and have like the name corrected on the materials, but then you can't sue for more. Which because you want to because if somebody has success based on your copywritten work, they're preventing you from having similar success potentially with that work is kind of
Of
the
course.
idea. And also they
Yeah.
did something bad and they need to be punished for it.
Oh, yeah,
So,
consequences, consequences.
yeah. So stop telling people to register a poor man's copyright. Actually register it the real way. Don't just mail yourself something and put it in a safety deposit box. It's potentially not even going to hold up in court.
No.
So there you go. And the other thing is, and this is completely separate, when you do register your copyright, you can register a piece of music either as sheet music or a recording. Always, always, always submit the recording because there are probably things in the recording that would still be protected under copyright. But if you don't register the recording and someone like swipes your guitar solo note for note,
Oh, that
and
makes sense, yeah.
this has happened, then you pull up the written work and it's just the chord sheet.
Yeah.
You can't, you have no protection for that.
No, not at all.
Well, at least for damages. So that's my bad advice that I've heard and would like people to stop giving.
Please, please don't. How about no?
Yeah. So I asked the followers from TikTok and Instagram, what's some bad advice that you've gotten? And woo, people did not disappoint.
No, they did not hold back either.
Yeah. I think my favorite was Lydia Loveless, who you should check out her music. Uh,
Awesome.
she said the worst advice she's ever gotten was don't quit. And she also clarified that was mostly a joke, but
Yeah.
I get it. Sometimes you got to
Yeah.
quit for a while. Sometimes you need to take a
Yeah.
break. Man,
Take a
sometimes like
breather.
there are definitely people out there who there are instances where you should quit for a while, and that might sound horrible to say, but I think about working at a library and this aspiring songwriter would come in just to print off lyric sheets, and he was without a home. He
Oh,
didn't have anywhere to
yeah.
go on a normal basis. But he's like, I just want to make it as a songwriter, and I don't think I can with a day job. I'm like,
Mm,
my guy, you've been at this for 25 years and you've lost
mm,
everything. I think you should quit for a
time to,
while.
yeah.
Maybe time
Uh,
to rein it in.
yeah, I mean, take a break for a little bit, get a little stability, and then approach how you could do it in a way that doesn't sacrifice everything you own.
Yeah,
Yeah.
your entire life. Yeah. Your wife,
Yeah.
your kids. My
Yeah.
guy. Yeah.
Poor guy.
But Joe, I know you actually went through and you picked some of the best ones.
Yes. I thought they were great. I guess I'll go down the list one at a time. One of the first ones I saw, which was you what you should and shouldn't be using as physical gear.
Mm. Yeah, people do love to give advice about that.
Yes,
So,
unsolicited, of course, as always. I have that's I guess the one thing that you said. I have my bad advice that I don't appreciate people would keep coming up to me and saying. One of the first instruments that I started on before I got to guitar is that I played ukulele. I basically played that first. I played every size, but I mostly got to baritone at one point and I stayed there. And it's basically G tuning. It's like guitar tuning.
yeah.
But I it was easiest for me with 4 strings at first, getting used to it, and I was doing singer-songwriter kind of stuff. And, of course, I also put it through effects pedals, that was my humble beginnings. Every time that I would either perform in front of people or just in passing, people would come up to me and say, "You know what? You should play the guitar." And I was like, "Okay, that's nice, but that doesn't take away from the instrument that I'm using now." I mean, it doesn't mean that because I'm playing a ukulele that I am therefore not as serious or I shouldn't be taken,
Yeah.
you shouldn't care about what I'm doing because it's not a guitar. So I don't really think it's the vehicle that you're using. It's really, obviously if it brings you joy and you're making music that sounds great
And
and
it's
people
like
like
what you
it.
wanted to and it's what you want it to sound
Exactly.
like in your head.
And also, there's no
Huh.
rush. I eventually navigated to guitar at some point. I also went through like a Mando cello that was tuned, Chicago tuning, which is, the DGBE,
Mhm.
same thing, 8 string. And then also I got eventually to a 12 string and then a regular guitar. Like eventually I got there, but there's like no rush and no way that you should go about things. Do it in your own time. Don't do it because
Yeah.
someone says, "Hey, what you're doing, it's wrong. You should do what everyone else does." Like I hate that. Like I
Yeah.
immediately, I guess cuz I'm stubborn and a rebel in that way, it was just like, "No, I'm going to keep doing it my way and if it bothers you, good."
It's not helpful, and
No.
it's usually wrong. Like, I think a big thing is, obviously there are the, for lack of a better phrase, boomer-esque folk who think you should only play a Tele Strat or Les Paul,
Yeah.
end of list, that kind of thing.
Let people
But
do things the way they want.
yeah, I mean, I think people will say, and gosh, I just really forget who said this on TikTok, but the
Mm,
reason that a lot of the classically greats played like Strats, Les Pauls, and Telecasters is because that was kind of what was available in a
at the
higher
time, yeah.
like caliber of guitar. Like you had your weird Tyscos and your Sears models, and but they weren't like professional quality. And back then, all you really had at that quality were a few limited body shapes.
Yeah.
As far as a hard body, a hard body, a solid body electric guitar
Definitely
went.
Dan Electros.
Definitely hard bodies. I've seen it. Um, but now, like you can have incredibly made instruments in pretty much
Yeah.
every shape, custom shapes, custom builds. Like jazz masters can be fantastic quality guitars. Not that they
Anything.
weren't then,
No.
um, but like even the things that used to be strictly beginner level guitars, like a Jag, they make them really, really nice now. So if that's the sound that you want, if it's the feel and the shape and the look that you want, far be it from anybody else to tell you what you want. It's like I always
Exactly.
say, like, who are you to tell me what I want?
Yeah, and also if it's something that's working really well for you, you feel comfortable, you're creating, you're having fun, why listen to someone that's going to then steer you away in a direction that's away from that? Like just
Yeah,
stick to your north star. If that's the instrument that is actually creating and doing things that make you basically move forward in your music career, great, but to then just
yeah.
drop everything and go from scratch to something completely different and then start like, yeah, it doesn't make sense to me.
And people even do that with, like, audio interfaces.
Yes.
When I demoed the PreSonus Studio 1810C, which I love,
Yeah,
people said, "You traded down from the Focusrite." I'm like, "Well, the Focusrite had fewer inputs and less control and no loopback." Like, "Yeah, but the preamps are better on a Focusrite." I'm like,
oh my god.
"No, they're not. They're just different, like, and
Yeah,
they're not what I need. I'd rather have something more transparent with higher headroom, which is what PreSonus has. Like, Air is great. The Air preamps are great for vocals. Um, I don't need them.
yeah,
I don't sing."
yeah. No, that's what I
So,
said. And
yeah.
on my end, yeah, I do. So yeah.
I mean, there are other preamps out there. Like, you can get an external
Yeah,
preamp, if you really want that kind of sound, or you can do a lot in post, but also I don't think they sound bad
of
on
course.
vocals anyway. So it is just a matter of people have their preferences and they like to bestow that upon
Of
others.
course.
And there are definitely times where you will need to say somebody to somebody, well, if this is what you want to achieve, then you probably want or need this. Like if you want to do a loop back in a stream, which is to play the audio from like one of your applications into your stream and be able to mix it separately, you need a specific kind of interface to do that.
Yeah.
So, but that's different from gatekeeping because it's a matter of how do you and people are probably asking at that point, like how do
Yeah.
you get that? How do you get the sound from Purple Rain? You don't really get it without a chorus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kinda need that.
No, and also in these instances of advice, everyone's music and everything that people are trying to do is incredibly different. So, as much as sometimes if it's not gatekeepery and you're just trying to give advice, isn't always helpful because whatever you're doing may be different than what the other person is doing and it may not
Yeah,
apply just as long
yeah,
as obviously, you're trying to be helpful and not an asshole.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah. I mean, you could always say, "Hey, this is what I do to solve that
it may not
problem. This
yeah.
might not work for you."
Yeah.
But so, yeah, I think a lot of this is gonna be, like, how you approach the advice and how it's given.
No, of
I
course.
f
And that also, like we were talking about the personas and stuff like that. That was one of the other things that people say is like what DAW you should be using. And I'm like, oh, you should only use Pro Tools if you want to like, be considered like, studio, like, pro kind of thing. And I was like, no, Logic is just fine. Or like any of the other. And it was like,
Studio One
you
is
yeah,
great,
it's
like,
fine too. Like whatever gets the job done. And if it sounds great, like that's your interface.
they'll all make like, they will all create the same stems.
Yeah.
Like, they all do the same thing, just in slightly different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Some crash way less than Pro Tools, which is always a plus.
Don't get me started on
Um,
Cubase.
Pro Tools is pretty famous for
Mm,
crashing a lot. The thing is, Pro Tools got in at the level of like education. And that's
of course.
been a great marketing tactic for them because people learn on Pro Tools, you get certified on Pro Tools, and you feel like you can
Yeah.
walk in and, to any studio. And the thing is,
And
like, if
be
you're
yeah.
familiar with one interface, like one
It
DAW,
all
I mean,
it all cross yeah, it's cross platform to be honest. Once you kind of know how to navigate in one, a lot of stuff is kind of like, transient. Like it goes over into the different ones. One of the things definitely when it comes to the interfaces, I will say, is the fact that if there's Logic or it's Pro Tools or whatever, um, as far as Pro Tools, I think it's subscription, right? As opposed to like a monthly kind of thing, or is it like a one-time buy?
a lot of places are moving to subscriptions,
Yeah, I
if
know.
you
I'm
want to
already
continue, at
yeah,
least if you wanna continue to get the updates.
updates.
Avid, Pro Tools non-subscription version.
Yeah, because I'm already
Um,
as far as I'm going with Adobe because that's basically my stuff that I'm tied in. I'm already paying a subscription. So for me, it's like, more subscription
yeah,
payments.
you can't cross-grade from old versions. If you find and what I've seen before is sometimes for, like, these subscription services, if you don't wanna pay for the subscription, it's going to be significantly more expensive. Pro
Hmm.
Tools looks
Yes.
like there's a perpetual license renewal, update and support, continue to updates for 1 year, $200. I'm not sure what this is.
No, it's fine. Yeah, I was
Uh,
wondering because I know what people say because that's what I said. Like, I'm just sticking with Logic. But as far as what people I've talked to, as far as the difference between Pro Tools and such, is that it's subscription based.
with a perpetual license at a reduced cost. So requires you have an iLock account. Okay. So I it looks like you can, but
Just have a
like and
standalone.
it
Okay.
yeah. I mean, I have a PreSonus Sphere. So that's
Hmm.
like $120 a year, but I also get every single plugin, every
Everything. Yeah.
single sound pack, which is an enormous value. Like all the drum sounds, bass sounds, synth sounds that they
No,
offer,
that's great. Yeah.
typically make people pay more for. I get that, and I can still use external plugins with it because it is the PreSonus Studio One professional level.
Yeah, that's what I appreciate again about Logic is the fact that I can use other external plugins and I just buy it and it's
Mhm.
fine because I'm already kind of trying to avoid the what do you call it? The buy-in kind of situation with like UA, where so you want all this, you have to pay more for it. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that.
I don't want to.
I don't have that kind of money.
Yeah. Let me
I
s
get
I
too
guess
distracted from buying more pedals, which I shouldn't be.
yeah, and it's not your doll's not the funnest thing in the world to buy, neither is a power supply.
Mm-mm. Nope, nor is a reamp utility tool.
No, but it will open up a lot of new worlds for you. But
No,
yeah,
exactly.
let's get back into bad advice. What else we have?
Yes. All right. What else we have is if you haven't made it by a certain age, don't even try.
That is
And
such bullshit.
is such shitty advice. And of course, applied,
Yeah.
obviously, when you think about a lot of times when it comes to being a woman, we tend to have a societal expiration date, which really shouldn't exist, but that's a
Yeah.
lot of the things we have to navigate.
But there are some incredible women even who have had
Yes,
enormously successful careers later in age,
still
even though as a society, the acting and music industry tends to fetishize,
young,
I don't
yeah.
know, get obsessed with, like, people who start young, like Fiona Apple getting a record deal when she was 17. Sheryl Crow didn't have a hit record until she was in her 30s,
Yeah.
and she's one of the most famous musicians on the planet.
Exactly.
One of my favorite songwriters, is Lucinda Williams, and she didn't get big until I think she was in her 40s. At big,
Yeah, it's never too
like
late.
adult
Yeah.
contemporary big. What another songwriter I like, Mary Gauthier, she didn't write her first song until she was 40.
It doesn't matter when you start,
No,
honestly.
no, and I always say my great aunt picked up organ when she was 50, and she still got 45 years out of it.
Nice.
So it's never too late to start. It's never too late to keep trying. Assuming, going back to my friend from the library, you're not
Hmm.
losing everything.
No.
Like, take you gotta take stock with things and decide if is it still worth it to have nothing else. And I guess this guy decided it was still worth it. But I think especially for women, and again, like obviously this is we're women, so this
Yes,
is
that's why
like
we're
our
talking about it.
experience. Uh, women, a lot of times we get married and we have kids, and then we have at least 15 years where those kids are our whole lives. Because after 15, they become more independent. You can start
Yes.
doing more. And we kind of forego, culturally speaking, forego our own interests in favor of our family. Because women, even though there have been vast improvements. And I think we both are lucky and have partners who pull their own weight and probably then some.
Yeah.
Um, And neither of us have children, but I also think that if we did, our partners would be
Probably.
present
Yeah.
and good parents probably. I know speaking for me, I know Rick would be fantastic at that,
Yeah.
but it's not something that we have or want.
No,
But,
that's about the same thing. Yeah, like Carlos would be great, but like I am not able to, so that's not happening.
I'm sorry.
It's
That
fine.
was a little personal.
I didn't really want kids anyway, so it's just as well.
I literally just blocked
I'm fine with
someone.
cats.
I literally just blocked someone from high school who I haven't talked to since high school, sent me, like, an invitation to join her fertility group, and I was like, "You know what? Fuck you. You don't know my life."
Oh my
Blocked.
god.
It's like, "Wow. You have no
Oh,
idea what you coulda just been
wow.
doing to somebody. Oh, you
Oh my
suck."
god.
Yeah, don't
Oh,
do
just
that.
to send that. Don't do that. Yeah, because if someone
But
can't conceive, like
it's
that's
like
so
it becomes
such
a
a
very personal and serious question.
oh yeah.
So yeah, you don't know somebody's life, just don't fucking do that.
Don't
Just
do that
don't.
ever.
Sometimes people ask me and Rick when we're having kids, I'm like, "You don't know that that's an
Oh,
option
I
for us,
hate
so
that.
have
I
you."
hate that so much. And the other thing I hate is like anytime like if you have chronic health issues, you have nausea. Like, are you pregnant? I was like, no, I'm not.
No. Am I not I'm not drinking for a while? No, it's just I switched antidepressants.
Yes.
Fuck.
There can be another reason other than,
Yeah.
hey, yeah, I'm pregnant.
You gained weight? No, I switched antidepressants.
Thanks for asking.
Thanks for sucking so hard.
Fuck.
But that is all to say that even though, like, a lot of women have great partners now and men
Of
are
course.
more than ever stepping up in the household,
Yes,
there's
thankful for them.
still women still tend to do most of the work after work. So even if you have a full-time job, women still are more likely to cook, they're more likely to clean, they're more likely to rush kids to soccer practice, which
Takes
again,
a
that
lot of
wasn't even
time. Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't even my experience because my dad was a very much present parent, which is, I think, kind of why I
Mine was too. Yeah.
expected that with a partner. Yeah. But, yeah, so, yeah, there's no age limit on being a musician. I have one more story that I'm gonna tell. I did a gig a few years ago with this woman, and, she was old enough to have a son who was, like, 16, 17 years
Mhm.
old, and, she I guess he had this guy this her son had, like, a lot of platonic female friends, and a group of him and his friends, a lot of whom were female, went to one of his mom's gigs,
Okay.
and the girls just ate her up, they fucking loved it, and the
Aw.
mom said, "I wasn't really expecting to get such an enthusiastic response because, like, she's in, like, her 40s, these are, like, teenage
Yeah.
girls, it's not even the kind of music that they like," and they really thought his mom was super cool. I mean, why the fuck wouldn't you?
Oh, of
And,
course. Yeah.
and
Hell
he
yeah, mom.
she's like, "Why do you think that is?" And he said, "You make them not afraid of getting older because you're
Yeah.
still doing awesome stuff." I think a lot of times you look at people who are older and you're like, "I feel like your life got kinda boring." And, like, if you see somebody who's older and still doing that kind of thing, even though they're not
Fun,
like
yeah.
huge rock stars, even though it's not their primary source of income, even though they're just out there having fun, just knowing that it's okay for adults to still play and be joyous it makes getting old a lot less scary, I think.
Yeah. No, exactly. I agree with you. I mean, I talk with people and know people that are in their 50s and 60s, like still playing, going, doing gigs, having fun. And that's really great for me to see because I'm just like, great. Like, if I'm able to keep my passions and still do things that I love into that point of my age, like, that's really, really good to see. I feel less weary and a less, I guess, afraid that I'm going to lose the ability to do those things by seeing other people still do it. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, knowing that there's still going to be a scene there to
Yeah.
support you and love you and other people that you can be
And
friends
cheer
with
you
still
on
doing
like
that. No, I think it's one of the reasons it's really important for that kind of visibility and to just squash that because yeah, for every Adele who put out her first record when she was 19, thus the name, or
Oh,
20, there's someone like for example, Maren Morris who got famous and released her first record when she was in her late 20s instead of early 20s.
yeah, I feel
Or
like
yeah.
also those are like outliers. Like a lot of times that people make it in general, it's just sometimes like just luck. You know what I mean?
It
And
is a lot of
especially so
luck.
young. Yeah. I was like, you can't
And
use
yeah.
that as a gauge for your own success. Like
Yeah.
I don't use profession like what the society claims as pros, like I don't use that as my gauge of success. I think
No.
that's not a good thing to do at all.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. Society doesn't know what they're talking about. And
No,
yeah, it's
not at
just
all.
it's wrong. And Louise from Dwarfcraft Devices told me when I told her I was afraid of turning 30.
Aw.
And she's like, "Oh,
Well,
you're
you're
30."
afraid.
She's like,
Look
"Your
at
30s,
me.
the 30s are." She's like, "I loved my 30s. I love actively my 30s." She said, and you know what? She's right. 30s are awesome.
Yeah,
Like
no,
you,
they were.
and I just saw Noah from the Discord server. Our friend Noah.
I
He
love
posted
Noah.
something that was like, "Your 30s are for unlearning all the stupid like
Yes.
shit you learned in your 20s." Like
Yep.
all the stuff that made you unhappy. And I think about like how much I really hustled in my 20s, not that I'm not hustling now, but
No, yeah.
overworking hours, trying to
Yes.
prove something that I didn't need to prove, trying to be someone I didn't want to be. Like I made a lot of
Yeah.
mistakes earlier in my life, and like just getting a little bit older and realizing that like, hey, I just lost essentially feel like I lost 10 years trying to do what other people wanted me to do.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that anymore.
No,
So,
and yeah, I'm glad you're at a point that you're kind of like where you are in your 30s and kind of reaching this realization, because I think once you get to like your 40s it's kind of like, okay, I know what I want. I know what I don't want. I've already done
yeah.
like the rat race in my 20s trying to basically people please everyone, improve myself. I've already had like 20 years in my career as a veteran. I don't feel like overperforming anymore. So this is what
Yeah.
I can do. This is how I want to go about things. If you're cool about that, awesome. If you're not, like I'm
Get
not
off
bending over anymore.
get
Like
out of
I'm
the
just
car.
not.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like I'm not doing that anymore. I don't have the
Yeah.
energy and I don't have the fucking time for that. Like
I
which yeah.
I had someone who's a little bit younger basically asked how I have so few fucks to give, and I'm like, I
It
kind of
happens as you get older. Yeah.
it happens because like
Yeah.
when you're younger you can physically carry all of these fucks and imagine them as like rocks in a
Yeah.
basket, and then
Yes.
like you let go of your first one and you're like, oh, that felt really
Hey.
good. And then you start just like like walking down the pathway, just throwing rocks into the woods or whatever,
Yeah.
until the basket is mostly empty. And the things that are left
Yes.
that you care about, you really, really care about. The things you couldn't let go of, like I can't
Yeah.
let go of caring about this.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need a little bit of extra work to get rid of a few of those last,
That's few
rocks in that
fucks.
basket. Rocks in a
Yeah.
basket.
No, I agree with that because over time, and it's something that I've talked with people in passing that are younger, than me. And it's a sense of I could tell you things to be mindful of or ahead of the curve of this will happen when you get to its point. And I know it's cliche because we've heard everyone say it, but I know I might be wasting my time because until you get there, you won't understand what I'm trying to tell you ahead of time.
Yeah.
It's something that just kind
Yeah.
of as you get older, you're like, oh, that's what they mean. Like you really don't get it before, and you're like, oh, I appreciate the advice, but I don't understand what the merit of it is. And
Yeah.
at a certain point, you're like, wow, you're right. I actually do give less fucks now because I have this kind of focus on really what matters and the people that matter to me and what really doesn't and what really I shouldn't be stressing about or caring about. Because in the
Yeah.
grand scheme of things, I think as we get older and closer to the inevitable, I think that becomes clearer and clearer.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Like some things you just kind of have to learn on your own or
Experience.
experience on
Yeah.
your own and
Mhm.
come to those conclusions by yourself. It's like being a little kid and refusing to take a nap and grown-ups being like, "Oh, I you're going to want that nap later." Like, well, that's not
Yes.
really how it works, but also like
No.
I get it.
Yeah.
Ugh,
I love sleep.
yeah.
I wish I could get more of it. Yes. So I
Yeah.
totally relate to that.
That's it. Yeah. So what do we have next? We might have to make this a
All right. The
two-parter.
next we might. The next one is networking is not necessary.
Oh, I remember who sent this one, but yeah.
Yes.
This is an industry based on who you know and whether you're likable or not. I
Mhm.
always say there are people who are going to be if you're a miserable son of a bitch to be around, it doesn't matter if you're the best fucking guitarist in your city.
No.
Nobody's going to want to book you. And you're going to be
Nope.
looking around like, well, I'm better than that person
Don't
objectively. Why am
matter.
I not getting these gigs? Because you suck.
Yeah,
Nobody wants
your
to be around
personality is
you.
shit. Yeah, no one wants to be around you.
So, but if you're like, if people are like, this person is capable of doing this gig and I really like being around them, you're going to
Yeah.
get the gig. And
Yeah.
you're like, you can't expect people to come to your shows as a local band if you don't go to other people's shows, and I'm not the best at
Yes.
this. Thankfully, my singer and my drummer are fantastic at this. Um, I get out when I can. It's just kind of hard to drag Rick to things, frankly.
Yeah.
Um, but it's something that you have to do because you need to like hang out with these other bands, meet them, talk, get on bills together, and then
Yeah.
but not even looking at it as like, what can you do for me? It's just you need to build your community because the community is the most essential part of any live music scene or
No, of
anything
course.
really. Like
Just
this
yeah,
community
just
of
in
demo
general.
artists. Yeah, like we
Yeah.
have this community of demo artists and we know that there are demo artists out there who don't value being as
A community.
communal
Yeah.
as we do. And you see them sort of start to get fewer opportunities from like just looking outwards looking in. Sometimes you know that they're wondering like, why didn't I get that? And I'm like, well, probably because other people aren't recommending you because you don't talk to them. Like, how
Yeah.
do we know you
And
to recommend you?
no, of course. And again, like before the pandemic, I used to go to a lot of live shows like every a weekend or so. I used to love doing that, and I've
Oh
made
yeah, I
some of
went to
my
more before the
greatest
pandemic.
friends. Yeah, I made some of my greatest friends with people that I used to love their bands and I'd go to see and I loved their music and we'd just talk afterwards. And of course, I would do my own musical things, locally. And even now that I'm doing the demo stuff and I've talked with people and pedal builders and people online with the community, like that's what I really enjoy, like the connection and meeting creative people that are like myself and hearing about their passions and seeing how they're pushing themselves. Like I love it, and I don't really see it as networking. I just see that I'm getting to know more people and knowing more about what they do. And obviously, if I can be a part of that in some way, I find that
Hmm.
exciting and fascinating.
Totally. Yeah. Um, I asked the person who left that comment, like, who told you that? And she said, like,
Hmm.
some local guy who's never gone out of the local
Anywhere,
scene.
yeah.
Yeah, some local guy's never gone
That's
anywhere. I'm
that's
like, yeah,
mostly like that's mostly also the troll comments too. Like they have no record, no posting of anything, but they're gonna make comments or say shit or give bad advice like that when they themselves haven't done jack shit.
yeah, and that is really the truth. We're not the only people who've talked about this. Like,
No, yeah, a lot of people have.
this guy who he's a bassist. He goes by Amp, like that's his channel name. He talks
Hmm,
about like I get these troll comments. I click on their profile and they have no
nothing.
content. They've got
Yeah,
nothing. And maybe they
I think
think
Ryan said
that
that too. Yeah, nothing.
maybe they think that they're better or could do it better. And shit, maybe they could, but
Maybe put yourself
they
out there
aren't.
though.
They aren't
Yeah,
though.
prove it.
And yeah, it's like, oh, it's like going to a baseball game once, and the guy behind me and my friend John kept saying stuff like, "Oh, if I hit that ball, it would have been a home run." I'm like,
Yeah,
dude,
okay, dude. Yeah, you
it's
and
it's
me
a
both, buddy. I'm Babe Ruth. Yeah, totally.
yeah, I'm Hank Aaron, whatever. No, dude, you probably played baseball in college and didn't ended up in like round 15 of the draft or something slow like that. Like if anything. Uh but yeah, it is very much a thing. And so my unsolicited advice for people is and I kind of hesitate to say
Hmm.
you can't be critical of things unless you do it yourself.
Yeah,
But there's a difference between being critical and
for the sake of.
trolling.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. And then like offering constructive criticism, that's, if people
That,
ask
yeah.
for it, leave it. And if you see something you really fucking hate it, don't engage with it. What are you
Just
doing?
scroll on, like go to something
Yeah.
that you do enjoy. Why do you stop to just be a fucking asshole? If it's not for you, go elsewhere. Like I
Rage
don't
bait.
understand. Yeah,
Everything is
like
rage bait for these
I
people.
I don't I call it hate watching. I was like, why are you torturing yourself? Why are you doing this to yourself? It's not something like that you want or you enjoy, and you keep commenting on these videos that you keep watching, and you're just posting negative comments negatively across the board. Like, what is your life like? I really have to ask, like, what's going on in your life that you're projecting all of this emotion onto these random people just doing what they love and
Mhm.
sharing things, really not really getting paid much and just doing it mostly because they love it, because obviously like the pedals don't equate for like paying for the amount of hours and things like that that they put in. They're like
Yeah.
actually doing it because they're passionate and they love it, and here you are just going to the comments just shitting all over it. It's like, fuck you, dude. Like,
Yeah.
go whatever's going on in your life, go solve it. Like, this ain't it.
Some guy commented on my stuff the other day, one of my posts the other
Mm.
day. Because at the end, I'm like, hey, if you want to support the channel, here are ways to, including free ways. And the guy said something like, stop begging for money and get a real job. And then so I took that negative comment, I turned it into an Instagram reel because I get monetized for
Yeah.
Instagram reels.
Thanks for
And
the
I immediately made $10 off of it
I
because,
thought
okay,
that was
just,
amazing. Yeah.
and then I told him, I'm like, this comment's already made me $10.
You
and,
when you
and
troll the
then he
troll.
demanded, and then he was like, well, then you need to give me my fair share of it. I'm like, who's begging for money now?
Yeah,
Who's begging for money?
bitch.
What the fuck is wrong with you? And then he's like, I just want what's mine. This is not begging. I just want what's mine. I'm like, do you think you're entitled to compensation for commenting on my post? And he deleted his comments.
Call J.G. Wentworth. Say some cash now.
This guy, he was so dumb. He literally commented, "I'm deleting my
They're
other
not the
post so you don't
brightest.
get."
Yeah, they're not.
He commented on that same post, "I'm deleting my other comments so you don't get a boost in the algorithm." Like, what do you think you're doing right now, my
You're
brother?
still
What the fuck?
doing it. Like, you're working for free, dude. Thank you.
And
Thank
you
you.
know what? And you know what? YouTube kind of likes comments. They really love
They
return
do.
visitors.
Yes, they do. Oh my
Amazing.
god.
These
All
people, it's
right.
like you can't win. All right, what's
No.
next?
All right. So what's next is um one of the things I do appreciate Tulpa effects. I love his pedals. So
Oh,
one of the
Tulpa, yeah,
things,
yeah.
yeah, I love him. So one of the things, he had a few. I'll basically say two of them is you use or have too many pedals on your board. And also, there's an instance of his sister was in the band with him for a while when he played out. And he kept having these people walk up to him and basically say, like, hey, your drummer's pretty good for a woman. So it's like, it's okay only if she's good. Like, you know what I mean? She's great. I've heard some of the videos. So, like, again, like, what is the bad advice as far as like your band is only good as if,
You good
whoever's
for a girl. We all know women have to work twice as hard for half the respect, but have you ever
totally.
actually been told you're good for a girl? Because I
Oh,
definitely
yes.
have.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I
So
have.
I do want to get it out of the way for people who think this doesn't actually happen. It fucking happens and not just in music. I've been told my writing is good
Everywhere.
for a girl. I've been told my
No,
writing is good for a girl. I'm like, some of the most famous fucking authors in history are women. And my
I
writing's good
played
for a girl?
yeah, I played goaltender throughout my whole life. I went to
Yeah.
USA development camps. I played with guys mostly, and I always got that. And I had the number one spot always on the team. Like the other guy who was a backup goalie was a guy. Like I was the one that was basically heading most of the games. Oh, I'm pretty good for a girl. Like, no, I am good. Like that's what it
Yeah.
is. I am good at what I do.
Period. You're pretty
Yes.
good, period. So yeah, I mean, that doesn't feel like bad advice so much. I do long for a time when women can successfully
Yes.
be as mediocre as men can. Uh, and I'm not over here saying like I'm a 10 times better
No.
guitarist than other demo artists because I'm clearly not. Like that's demonstrable. But
I'm yeah, I'm sure I was a better goaltender than I am, like, a guitar player.
yeah, like I probably I'm good though.
Meh.
And I've had people ask if I'm any good, and when I said yes, just seemed really kind of flabbergasted that I would say that. Like, I mean, I wouldn't have like this wouldn't be my office if I wasn't
No.
somewhat competent
What do you
at
do?
my
Yeah.
instrument. So that's kind of funny. But the advice being like you have too many pedals on your board.
Yeah, like that's I've gotten that before and I hate that. I was just like, no. If I know how to
I
use it and that it isn't
yeah.
muddy and it doesn't sound good, and it sounds good in what I'm doing, no, I think I have just enough.
It, it sounds good, and if you're using them, it's
Yeah.
not too many. It's probably just enough. Or
Yeah.
you should get like an HX stomp instead of using your real pedals. I'm like, HX stomps are great. They're great. They're great. And people who love them love them.
Of
I
course.
maybe you just don't want that. Maybe that's just not your solution.
Or
I
maybe
think
they don't want a whole pedal board of things and you just want one solid unit to handle all your
yeah,
stuff. I mean, it's
yeah,
basically like whatever you're comfortable with juggling. Some people want a whole pedal board to turn knobs on, some people want something that's not as much effort.
yeah. Some people want presets and plugins, and
Plugins,
that's
exactly. That was on here
equally
too. Yep.
valid. Equally
Mhm.
valid. Just completely equally valid. And it's a matter of personal preference and
Yeah.
taste. And honestly, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Just because you can't beat them doesn't mean you should join them. Because people are going to be
No.
miserable sods. Like it doesn't. It's unhealthy. It's like it's inevitable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other one is that I see here is the exposure is going to be worth it.
You know, there are. I'm gonna come in with a hot take. Sometimes it is.
Okay.
Sometimes exposure is worth it. But if they're to the point where the exposure is going to be worth it, they probably have the fucking budget to pay you.
Yeah.
But there are times where doing stuff for free can be relationship building. And if it is positive relationship building, consider it. Weigh the pros and cons. Do you have time? Will it impede your ability to do something else that you are
Of
getting
course.
paid for? Like every once in a while, I'll do a free demo, but I always tell the people like, hey, you can send me the pedal and I'll probably get to it.
Yeah.
It's going to take a long time. And it's mostly like, do I want that pedal anyway?
Yeah.
Um, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
I agree.
It's
Yeah,
it's
I
it's
mean,
rare. It's rare and rare because frankly, my paid work is building up faster and faster to the point where I'm probably gonna have to raise my rates soon. But yeah, sometimes it's fine to do things for free. I don't get paid. I didn't get paid for the Starcaster demo that I did. I bought that Starcaster with my own money. It launched my channel. It's still one of my most viewed videos, if not the most viewed.
yeah.
Sometimes it's worth sometimes it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, quite a few pedals again that I've demoed and done so far. Like, I paid with my own money. I think out of them, maybe I think maybe the mall was really the first one I was sent. All
Yeah,
the other ones, and even like the Albie that I'm doing now, I won. Doing a song competition. Like again, like that's something I'm doing because I want to do it, not that
yeah,
I'm being paid to do it. So I'll have demos where, yeah, if I get sent something, obviously I like it, I'll do it. But other than
mhm,
that, most of the time, like, yeah, I'm just doing it because I enjoy it and I like
yeah.
exploring the sounds that these pedals that I've got.
Yeah,
Um,
but there are I think a lot of examples in fields where it doesn't make sense. Like if you're a wedding band and someone said, "Oh, you're gonna get tons of exposure if you play my wedding." No, you're fucking not. What?
no,
No, because
no,
that is what you do. You don't want to play free gigs unless it is strategic for you. Like, oh, I
no.
mean, we don't have budget to pay for this gig, but like a shit ton of people from a bunch of record labels are going to be there. Like, oh, maybe you
Yeah,
should consider playing that gig for free.
yeah, those a lot of those business though don't just pull it with obviously musicians. As a graphics person, in my 20s, like, yeah, like we got that all the time. And that's always when I tell people that are starting into, graphics or things like that. Normally, at least in the profession that I'm in, the exposure really doesn't lead to anywhere. It's really just to get things for free, these
Yeah.
businesses. And so we've all kind of, at least in our trade, told each other, if they say exposure, run, like, don't deal with them at all because once you accept that one client and then everybody obviously network wise knows, then you're having to deal with that constantly. You need to eat.
Yeah. No, yeah, you do. A thing that I used to get a lot, see with photographers and writers, especially,
Hmm.
was working on spec, and and that stands for speculation. And the
Hmm.
idea was there you would do the work, and then if the person liked the work, they'd pay you for it, but only if they liked it. And you're like, no, like if you're reaching out to me,
No,
you
they
should
can
already know what
pretend
my
to not
style
like it.
is,
Yeah.
and then they're probably going to use it anyway. I've seen that happen too. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think working on
Mm.
asking someone to work on speculation is evil,
Yes.
and it's also kind of the like I know there are websites where it's almost like a competition where you like I want a logo and 5 people submit logos and only one of them gets paid for it. Don't do that.
No.
I had a There was a guy who was I went to college with, and he for some reason thought he was super hot shit. He did have like an indie record that maybe got some good reviews or whatever. But I don't think anything really happened with his career because he was like a, a drop in a bucket. Ultimately, he asked a bunch of students at my college to mix, I think, 1 to 3 of his songs, and then whichever mix he liked the most would get to do the whole
Yeah.
record. Like, are you? What are you? No, you are nobody. Like, you need to pay people at
No.
least for their time. Like,
Pay people.
if I am applying for a writing job and someone wants me to do a writing assignment, it is standard in the industry to pay for that writing assignment, whether it gets used or not. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I'll pay you for your time, $250 for
Yeah.
an
Like,
article. Like, okay, fair, even if they
of
never use it.
course. Yeah, if I'm asking someone, I have some kind of track and I know a drummer that also records, and I ask them, "Hey, I want at least a live drummer on this track." I will ask them what their rate is. Like, I'm not going to tell them, "Hey, you're on my track. I have a channel. Do you want exposure?" Like, I
Yeah,
respect artists, I respect musicians. Like, what's your rate? Like, no. I hate that shit. Why would I do that to someone else?
I don't know. People are
Uh,
pretty atrocious ultimately, and there's just not a lot you can do about it
no.
in the end,
Just avoid them.
except for just say no. Like
No.
people are always there are always going to be people who try to get more than they deserve from you,
Of course.
and just say no. Like
Yeah.
like Nancy Reagan to drugs. Just say no.
You mean like that DARE program that, yeah, didn't end up really working?
Yeah.
Yes.
God, I am trying to find that band. I just don't think I'm gonna be able to find them. But I remember seeing what this guy's vinyl record in the store once and being like, "Oh, huh." It was a discount bin.
Oh.
Discount bin. Sorry, buddy. He is very talented. There were a lot of people I went to school with who were very talented and didn't have any drive.
That's the thing. Like, as far as when people talk about who's pro and how you should like evaluate who's professional and that, and it's like, there's a lot of people that I know that are way better than the people that are considered pro and who made it, and they never fucking made it at all. And like
Yeah.
their music is slept on, and they are way more talented than the people that are mainstream and whoever's getting play, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, but that's just how it
It is how it
happens.
is. I know.
It's
Yeah.
and
So
it's
that's
the
what.
same it's similar to, you can be the best guitarist in town, but if you're an asshole, no one's gonna hire you. You can be the
Exactly.
best songwriter ever, and if you don't try, put yourself out there, actually do the
No.
work,
And do things.
you're
Yeah.
gonna and actually working is never a guarantee of success, but not
No.
doing the work is a guarantee you won't be successful.
Yeah, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take, if I'm gonna use a hockey kind of proverb.
Wayne Gretzky. The great
Yeah.
one,
Yeah, it is.
right? He is the great one. I really wish I knew this person's name. I wouldn't say it, but I'm gonna keep looking. Maybe my ex
Yeah,
worked
my
on the record.
yeah, my 2 favorite hockey players were Mario Lemieux and Felix Potvin. Those are always, like, my 2 favorite players.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah,
I liked pretty much anyone who played with the Preds. Rick Nash. Rick Nash.
nice.
I love Rick Nash. Uh huh. Yeah, I don't know. No idea. Engineer. I'm never gonna figure this one out, huh?
No, no.
There we
The
go.
mystery shall continue. Unless you found it now.
Eh. No, I probably won't, and I don't super duper care, I guess. Chris Staples. Oh, you can't count that. That was a live show. I'm never gonna find it. All right, it's okay.
It's all right. Just let it go. Let it go. Let it
Let it
go.
go. That was beautiful. Yeah, I know we don't have time to get to the rest. Are
We
there more
can
though?
Yeah, there's like 5 other ones. So I mean if we want to do a part
Let's
2, we could
I
do
think we're
part
gonna need
2.
to do a part 2. We're gonna need to do a part 2 on this. Because
Yes.
I gotta bounce. Because in true Emily fashion, I haven't eaten yet,
Oh no.
and I would prefer to.
Yes.
So thanks again, Joe, for joining me on this
Always.
podcast endeavor. This was a really fun one, I thought.
Yeah.
Everyone out there, I'm bad at saying at the top. Please like, comment, subscribe. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, video version of the podcast on Spotify, and there are usually like polls and questions and things you can engage with there.
Yeah.
Patreon.com/get offset to get access to our exclusive Discord server, merch at getoffsetpodcast.com. Please like, comment, subscribe on the YouTube channel. Super chat if you want to drop us a tip. We have that. If you're still watching the premiere, you can still super chat. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it if
Also,
you really want to.
if also anybody out there, any brands or anything wants to sponsor the podcast,
Oh, I
I
was
can
forgetting about that.
I can definitely tell you that I will be super creative in plugging whatever it is that you want. If you've seen my channel, you know how creative I am. I will definitely make it entertaining and worth your while. So please,
Yes.
sponsor the channel. We'll definitely do a very creative plug that will not get you ignored, and
Hmm.
we appreciate any support you may throw our way.
Yeah. Also, check out the Pedal Playhouse. That's
Thank you.
Joe's channel. Social. Both of
Jo-
us are there.
yes.
I think I tagged you in the Instagram bio. Please
Of
let me
course,
know if I need
yes.
to update that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, everyone out there, thanks for watching. Thanks for understanding. Until next time, my name is Emily.
And I'm Joan of Heart.
And I said your line because I forgot.
It's all right. Bye bye.
Bye.